So, you want to own a bulldozer. Not rent one, not operate one for somebody else. Own one. Park it on your own lot. Put your name on the side. Here's the strange part. The machine itself is the easy math. A dozer converts diesel and horsepower into drawbar pool, and drawbar pool into billable hours, and billable hours into a number on a spreadsheet that looks almost boringly predictable. The unpredictable part is everything standing between you and that number. The undercarriage that wears out on a schedule nobody tells you about at the dealership. The trucking bill you pay just to move the thing 3 miles down the road. And a regulatory environment that can quietly turn a perfectly good machine into a fleet of ineligible scrap metal. You're not really buying a bulldozer. You're buying a very expensive bet that the world around the bulldozer stays boring. In the next few minutes, what a dozer actually costs across every size class. The two expenses nobody mentions until you're already committed. The simple math that makes the whole business work. And two real companies, one that turned dirt into a $100 million division, and one that filed for Chapter 11 with $223 million in liabilities against $116 million in assets. At the bottom of the market sits the small and compact class, machines under 25,000 pounds, 70 to 110 horsepower, the kind of dozer that fits on a single-axle trailer behind a regular pickup. New, you're looking at $130,000 to $220,000. Used, $55,000 to $135,000. Think CAT D1 through D3, Komatsu D37 and D39, Case 650M through 850M. This is backyard-adjacent work, residential grading, backfilling, light land clearing. Step up to medium and utility class, 25,000 to 60,000 pounds, 111 to 220 horsepower, and you're now the actual workhorse of commercial earthmoving. New machines run $250,000 to $550,000. Used ones, $85,000 to $350,000. This tier is CAT D4 through D6, Komatsu D51, D61, D65. Most of them now come pre-wired for 3D GPS grade control straight from the factory. Large and production class jumps to 60,000 to 120,000 pounds and 221 to 450 horsepower. New price, $650,000 to $1.5 million. Used, $250,000 to $850,000. This is CAT D7 through D9 and Komatsu D71 through D155 territory, built for mass excavation and quarry work, moved on multi-axle lowboys with highway permits. And then there's ultra and mining class, over 120,000 pounds, up to 1,040 horsepower. New price, $2.2 million to $3.5 million, and that's before you add a high-end 3D GPS or hybrid electric package, which can push the sticker to $2.5 million on its own. These are CAT D11 and Komatsu D475A machines, and moving one between job sites means dismantling the blade, the ripper, the track frames, and the cab, and shipping them separately. First, the undercarriage. Track chains, sprockets, idlers, rollers, shoes. Together, they account for roughly half of a dozer's total repair costs over its life, and they wear out on a fixed clock, every 3,000 to 6,000 hours, regardless of how well you take care of the machine. A rebuild on a mid-sized dozer runs $15,000 to $40,000. On a mining class machine, it's over $150,000. This isn't an if, it's a when. Second, the machine can't drive itself to work. Bulldozers destroy pavement and shred their own track grousers on public roads, so every job site move requires a specialized lowboy hauler. Local moves run $350 to $650 each way. Long-distance transport is $6 to $10 per mile, and if your job site access is delayed, the trucking company bills you $125 to $195 an hour just for the truck sitting there, engine running, going nowhere. Strip away everything else, and the business is simple. You're renting out horsepower by the hour, and the technology inside the machine determines how many billable hours it takes to finish a job. Traditional grading relies on physical stakes, surveyors, and multiple passes to hit target elevation. A modern dozer with 3D GPS grade control skips the stakes entirely. The system reads a digital terrain model and adjusts the blade in real time, and that alone cuts the number of grading passes needed by 30 to 40%. Fewer passes means less fuel, less undercarriage wear, and a faster path to the finish line on a fixed-price contract paying $3 to $6 per cubic yard moved. The math in your head, a job that used to take 10 hours now takes 7, and you're still getting the same lump sum. That's the entire business model expressed in blade angle and satellite signal. In practice, owners run one of 3 models. Bare rental, you hand over the keys, the lessee covers fuel, maintenance, and the operator, and you collect a passive yield. Operated and fueled, you provide the machine and the operator and bill a blended hourly rate that bakes in fuel and wear. Or fixed-price subcontracting. You bid a lump sum on total cubic yards moved, and your profit is whatever's left after the dirt is gone. Take a medium utility dozer, built, operated, and fueled at $190 an hour, working 1,000 hours a year. That's $190,000 in gross revenue. Subtract operator labor at $45.50 an hour, fuel at $28, and undercarriage wear reserve at $22, maintenance at $8, and transport and insurance at $10. $113.50 an hour in direct costs, or $113,500 a year in direct costs, and you're left with $76,500 in gross operating margin, a 40.3% margin. After fixed overhead and debt service of $35,000, net pre-tax profit lands at $41,500 a year on a machine that cost $160,000 used, under 4 operating seasons to pay itself off on paper.
The spreadsheet assumes steady utilization, stable fuel prices, and a market that keeps calling. None of those are guaranteed. Bulldozer demand is tied to cyclical sectors: energy pipeline construction, commercial land development, highway infrastructure, and a slowdown in any one of them, like the pipeline construction downturn between 2020 and 2022, drags fleet utilization down with it. Most of this equipment is bought on debt, so interest rate moves hit monthly carrying costs directly, and high-cost secondary financing, paid-in-kind loans in particular, can quietly balloon while a company isn't looking. Emissions regulation adds another blade edge. Jurisdictions enforcing Tier 4 final standards can lock older Tier 1 through 3 diesel engines out of public bidding entirely, forcing expensive retrofits or accelerating depreciation on machines that still run fine mechanically. And when a general contractor upstream hits financial trouble, the payment delays roll downhill to the equipment owner. And if the owner can't keep servicing its own equipment debt, the lender repossesses. And case law like Ellis Contracting Inc. versus Komatsu Financial shows the borrower can still end up owing a deficiency judgment after losing the machine. Sukkot Construction, headquartered in Santa Ana, California, is the version of this business working as intended. Annual revenue between $143 million and $310 million, a fleet of 275 to 300 heavy equipment units, including Caterpillar D11 production dozers, moving 50 to 150 million cubic yards of earth a year. On the $697 million Eastern Corridor Toll Road project, Sukkot moved 67 million cubic yards of earth and 15 million cubic yards of rock. On a 258-home Toll Brothers development, its D11s ripped through 180,000 cubic yards of hard rock, avoiding drilling and blasting entirely. Under VP of Operations Eddie Jurez, the company built out an environmental services and landfill remediation division that grew from $30 million to over $100 million in annual revenue, running on a fleet fully outfitted with 3D machine control. Worldwide Machinery Group is the other side of the coin. Founded in Houston in 1949, 117 employees, 560 machines in its fleet. For the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, it generated $67 million in revenue against $223 million in total liabilities and only $116 million in book assets. $132.5 million senior asset-based lending facility, plus a second lien loan that started at $50 million and grew to $70.9 million through paid-in-kind interest. The company was over-concentrated in the energy sector, and when pipeline construction slowed, fleet utilization eroded with it. Unable to service the high-cost debt, Worldwide defaulted, and in September 2025 filed emergency Chapter 11 in the Southern District of Texas.
A Section 363 sale followed. The Greenberg family's diversified holding, backed by Macquarie Equipment Capital, bought the assets for $56 million cash plus $9.6 million in assumed liabilities, saving the 117 jobs. First lien lenders recovered $54 million against $117.6 million in claims. Everyone junior to them got wiped out. And for the historical footnote, in June 2004, Marvin Heimer bought a used 1981 Komatsu D355A at a California auction for $16,000, spent a year and a half armoring it with steel plate and poured concrete, and used it to destroy 13 buildings in Granby, Colorado during a zoning dispute, causing over $7 million in property damage before the machine got stuck in a building's basement. Not every use case is in the business plan. Here's the paradox restated. The dozer math is reliable. Hours times rate minus a predictable set of wear costs equals a margin you can calculate on a napkin. What's unreliable is everything standing outside that formula: the sector your contracts depend on, the interest rate on the loan that bought the machine, the emissions rule that can age out your fleet overnight, the general contractor 2 rungs up the chain who might not pay on time. Sukkot and Worldwide Machinery were both running the same basic formula. One diversified its revenue and financed conservatively. The other leaned hard into one sector and let paid-in-kind debt compound in the background. The blade didn't fail either company. The balance sheet did. The modest version? A used small utility dozer, roughly a 3-year-old Komatsu D37 or Cat D3 class machine, 80 to 104 horsepower, purchased for $85,000 with $17,000 down and the balance financed at 8.5% over 48 months. Run it 800 billable hours a year at $140 an hour operated, and you're grossing $112,000 annually. After fuel, insurance, taxes, maintenance, wear reserve, and operator labor, roughly $54,550 in total annual operating expenses. You clear about $37,375 a year while the debt's still active, and $57,475 once it's paid off. Resale at year 5 is around $45,000. At year 10, around $20,000. Payback period? About 2.3 years. This is the owner-operator's machine. Residential site prep, utility trenching, land clearing, nothing exotic. The flagship version, a new mid-production dozer with 3D GPS, 168 to 215 horsepower, Cat D6 or Komatsu D61 PXI class machine, purchased new for $450,000 with $67,500 down and the rest financed at 7.0% over 60 months. Run at 1,400 hours a year at $220 an hour with GPS grade control included, and gross revenue hits $308,000. Annual operating expenses, fuel, insurance, taxes, maintenance, a heavier wear reserve, GPS subscription fees, and operator labor land around $175,350. Net cash profit while the debt is active, about $41,762 a year. Once the loan is paid off, that jumps to roughly $132,650 a year. Resale at year 5 is around $120,000. At year 10, around $90,000. Payback period? About 2.3 years. This is the owner-operator's machine. Residential site prep, utility trenching, land clearing, nothing exotic. The dozer will do exactly what the spreadsheet says every single hour it runs. It's the world it's parked in that never reads the spreadsheet back.